Hi, this is Ed DeVoe, and welcome to Revere TV's coverage of the Revere Beach National Sand Sculpting Festival. Behind me, what you see going on right now are the beginning stages or the mid stages of the development of the centerpiece for this year's Sand Sculpting Festival. This will be an amazing piece that when it's done, it'll be a huge sand castle, actually, and within the sand castle is going to be lights that will light up at night, and there will be a section there where you'll actually be able to have your photograph taken at some point in time during the sand sculptor. Now, what you see behind us is about 4 or 5 people up there. 3 or 4 of them are actually the contestants who will be creating their own sculptures competing in the contest later on this week, along with a couple of the other organizers who bring all of these contestants to us on the beach. They all work together for about 2 or 3 days putting together this centerpiece, and then when the actual contest begins on Wednesday, they all go off to start creating their own individual pieces. So it's going to be quite something to see in the development, and as we go through the days, you'll see each piece of the development process. And right now, what you see that they're doing is they're taking these wooden forms that they actually create and then stack up, and then they pour the cement. You see the front end loader right behind me. The sand is dumped into those boxes, and then they pour water in the sand, and then they mix it up almost as if you're mixing up concrete. Earlier I was talking about the form up here and the sand and the water that gets poured in here, and it's like stomping grapes. So I'm actually up here in the sand, and if you put your feet in there, I mean, you can see right now I'm up to my knees. If I leave my feet in there too long, I may not be able to pull them out, so you have to keep moving. And let me tell you, it's quite an exercise. These guys get their work, and believe me, this is just the start, because now they have to do their own when this one is done. So you can see the water that's being poured in. We're starting with the sand here. They pour the water in, and they get into a nice soupy mixture. And eventually, it'll come out looking just like this block over here.
Oh, convention.
This way.
Yeah.
Looks like a soccer net.
It is a soccer.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning and welcome to the Revere TV coverage of the 2011 Revere Beach National Sand Sculpting Festival. It's now Monday morning. The last time we spoke was Saturday when they were actually creating the forms and filling the sand into the forms and doing that pound down. You can see now that since then, the castle is actually starting to take shape. And with me today is Meredith Corson, who's responsible for organizing this happy crew of sculptors. And she's going to kind of fill us in on what's been going on over the last couple of days and what we can look forward to. Meredith.
Well, good morning, thank you. The last time we were here, we were working on the pound up. It was probably maybe 6 to 8 feet tall. Well, now you look, it is over 20 feet tall. The pound up is complete. And we now have a couple of three things going on. We have three different teams. We have the guys working on the sculpture. Then we have the logo wall team. They're ahead of schedule on the logos. And we have a one-man team, Dan, who's doing all the forced perspective, lining everything up so that everything is in the right place for the photo op.
And to go back to something, because it's important, because it's a big feature of this year's sand sculpting castle, the centerpiece, the lights. And you told me this morning they're already starting to put the lights in up top. Let's talk a little bit more about that again.
Yeah, we've started incorporating the lights into it. They start at the top, they kind of work back and forth. It's lights on a cord. They have to bury the cords. They put the lights in turrets behind, wherever we can hide them, that they also show up and light the castle up, that it looks like it's lighting up from within.
When can we expect to see those lights light up for the first time?
Well, the lights stay on the whole time we're working on it because we have to know if a light goes out.
Oh, okay.
So they're actually on now, but because it's daytime, you can't see them. So if you come down tonight, I think we'll be unplugging them when we're gone. But Wednesday night, the castle will be lit up.
Oh, okay. Well, that's something to look forward to. I'm standing here with Dan Doubleday. He's the primary architect for the centerpiece architecture, the sculpture that's going on at this point in time. Dan is also going to be a contestant doing one of his own sculptures during the contest later on this week as well. Dan, we were talking a little bit about, trying to get the right perspective and so forth. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, this piece is designed to view from one spot. It's a photo op, and it's for the eye of the camera. It really doesn't make sense unless you're standing in one central spot over here.
As you're standing in that spot, I mean, you're trying to view to see if everything is coming together in the right perspective?
Yes, because everything comes from that spot there. Everything comes in at angles. And so when you're carving it, it doesn't really make sense to the eye until you walk back to that spot. Then you see where that line or that object is supposed to be, or the size of it.
Yeah. So I see you stepping back over the pit, and I think that's the exact perspective that you're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to just mark a spot, but it got lost with people walking around. Now I dig a hole to go stand in, so I don't lose that spot.
Now, as the primary architect, and I've been asking some of the individual sculptors about their pieces, when you and how you come up with the idea or the design. How did you actually come up with this one?
Well, we've been doing this for a number of years, and the first thing we have to remember is that we have to thank the sponsors of this event, so they come up front. And you have to have a place to put that where it might make sense, because there's not a whole lot of sculptures like the David would not look good with a logo on them, so you have to kind of incorporate the logos and then the centerpiece for the people.
So, but the idea for the castle with the lights that are going to be in there is, did you go through a series of 4 or 5 different kind of ideas and kind of winnowed them down to one? And how do you go through that process?
Well, we've never given them a castle here, and the people love castles. So that was first and foremost. Plus, we thought if we put lights in the castle and made it a photo op, it would be a people favorite. So that's kind of where we started. I just had an idea one night, about 3 hours. I had a sketch, and I showed it to the boss, Meredith, and she said, "That's it." So that's really how it goes.
So you run the risk now because, there's always been that struggle, sand castles, sand sculpting. So, this is going to bring back the sand castles event, yeah?
Well, but it's a nice contrast to what we'll see in the competition, because every sculptor you see here in the competition is one of the best in the world, if not the best. And they all carve from the heart, and they do something you'll never see anyplace else. And it's really educating the crowd here and the people as to what really art is. But this is a people piece right here, and it is for the people, and so it's a nice contrast.
Oh, that's great, and it's good to see everybody coming together to work on it too. I know that a number of the sculptors who are going to be doing their own creations later on are actually working on this centerpiece, and then you have about 4 or 5, I think, other people that also pitch in on this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. There's about 3 here that are going to be in the competition, and typically they come here because they learn the sand, because all sand all over the world is different. And so if you can come here a couple of days ahead of sand and learn the characteristics of the sand, your piece may change. You may develop a whole different kind of, because you don't want to waste this sand. This is the best sand in the world, you know. So.
It was like Chris Quinto was talking about earlier, getting here early and working the sand. It's almost like doing a practice round on the golf course before the tournament starts.
It's very important to know where you're hitting the ball, or a motocross track, anything like that. If you can get an edge, most of the other sculptors that are coming here have used this sand before, and they're busy, so they'll come in later. But it was last year Joby came, and it was the first time he'd ever put his hands on his sand, and he came up with a brilliant idea, and of course won last year. Now the pressure's on him. He wanted to come back to see what he could really do with this sand, so that's why he's here. Because if you win this event here, there's a lot of pressure on you, because not to win, but to not embarrass yourself.
Well, that's great. I'm going to let you get back to working your perspectives, and we'll talk to you later on about your own individual architecture. Thank you.